All right, let's cut to the chase because your mouth's already plotting against you and we don't have time for foreplay. Your mouth isn't clean. It's not mini fresh. It's a biohazard nightclub, open 24/7, no ID check, bacteria grinding on your gums like it's spring break in Cancun. Yeah, I know, sounds kinda funny. Spoiler, it's not. Not even close, because I'm about to drop a stat that'll make you think twice before your next romantic face collision. Dr. Victoria Sampson, dentist, researcher, and the woman who's tested more spit than you've swallowed, says,
So you have approximately 700 different bacteria, which make up 2 billion bacteria overall.
2 billion. That's like cramming the population of China into a hot tub and letting them fight over who gets to hang out under your tongue. Some of them are harmless freeloaders. Others? They're microscopic arsonists, slipping past your gum line, hitching a ride in your bloodstream, and lighting fires in places they don't belong. Your heart, your brain, your hydraulics. One strain has been found inside breast tumors. Another? Triples the odds your sex life gets permanently downgraded to buffering. And one in particular, it's been linked to Alzheimer's and it might already be leaving little post-it notes in your neurons. If I were you, I'd grab a couple of xylitol mints, sit back, and open your ears because you're about to find out which bacteria are basically biochemical hitmen, how they've turned your immune system into their personal Uber, and the one thing you do every morning that's helping them win. Now, let's pop the hood on this microbial death machine you call a mouth. Here's the fun part. Your immune system actually sees this microbial party under your gums, and instead of shutting it down like a bouncer with a grudge, it just keeps showing up every night, swinging wildly, hitting the wrong people, and starting bar fights with your own tissues. Dr. Sampson doesn't sugarcoat it.
We now understand that more than 90% of diseases can be traced back to an imbalanced microbiome. If we zone into just the oral microbiome, it's got connections with infertility, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, rheumatoid arthritis, and the list goes on, erectile dysfunction.
That's not a casual oops. That's a system-wide revolt. And gum disease? It's the little leak in the dam that lets it all happen. When your gums are inflamed, maybe they bleed when you floss, maybe you just think that's normal. Bacteria slip into your bloodstream like they're on the VIP list. They don't just float around politely. They trigger an immune response so low-grade and constant that your body forgets where the actual problem is. It's like leaving a smoke alarm on in your house for months. Eventually, you either lose your mind or start pulling out the batteries. Your immune system does both. Oh, and remember that 9 times higher COVID complication risk headline? Yeah, people with gum disease made up a huge chunk of that stat. Bacteria from their mouths hitchhiked into their lungs and turned a viral problem into a bacterial deathmatch. And that's just the warm-up act. Wait until you see what one particular mouth microbe does when it makes a break for your brain. You'd think your brain is a fortress. High walls, guards at every gate, and a blood-brain barrier that's basically an immune system TSA. But apparently, that TSA agent takes bribes from mouth bacteria. There's one strain in particular, Porphyromonas gingivalis, that doesn't just stroll in. It brings its own wrecking crew. It slips from your gums into your blood, up to your head, and somehow talks its way past security. Once inside, it starts releasing toxic enzymes called gingipanes. Think molecular buzzsaws, slicing through neurons like they're on a clearance rack. I'm not making this up. Here's the stat that should make you feel very mortal.
So if we look at actually just the occurrence of Alzheimer's and gum disease or oral health, a lot of research has shown that if you have gum disease for more than 10 years, you have a 70% increased chance of developing Alzheimer's. So that was a study that was done on over 20,000 people, and they followed them for 20 years, and they saw, okay, if you had gum disease at baseline, whether or not you get Alzheimer's at 10 years or 20 years. So a 70% increased chance of it.
70%. That's not slightly elevated risk. That's playing Russian roulette with 4 bullets in the chamber. Studies have even found those gingipains in the brains of 97% of Alzheimer's patients. Which means, for most of them, the break-in wasn't just possible. It already happened. This isn't just about memory loss either. Chronic inflammation from your gums can accelerate brain aging, trigger brain fog, and turn your short-term memory into a game of hide-and-seek you'll never win. So, yeah, maybe bleeding when you brush isn't just a gum thing. Maybe it's the start of a hostile takeover in your head. And while they're busy vandalizing your neurons, some of these same mouth invaders take a detour south, straight to your arteries, where they pull off a slow-motion strangulation worthy of a crime doc. See, your bloodstream is basically an expressway. Once oral bacteria get in, they don't just cruise around sightseeing. They look for trouble. And your heart? Oh, that's prime real estate. Some of them latch onto your arterial walls and start pumping out toxins, the kind that tell your blood vessels, hey, maybe don't open all the way anymore. That means less oxygen to your heart muscle, higher blood pressure, and a cardiovascular system that's about as relaxed as a chihuahua on triple espresso. That's nearly half of heart problems potentially getting their start in your mouth. Not your diet, not your gym membership status, but the bacterial squatters under your gums. And here's the kicker. Treat gum disease, and inflammatory markers like CRP in your blood start dropping, which means those heart-stressing, artery-tightening enzymes back off when you evict their mouth-based HQ. So next time someone tells you flossing is just about keeping your smile pretty, you can tell them it's also about not having your arteries play slow death by boa constrictor. But if clogged vessels sound bad, let's talk about what happens when these bugs set their sights even lower, like much lower, and decide your blood flow should be rationed everywhere. So, arteries aren't the only pipes these bacteria mess with. They've got no shame. If blood flows through it, they're willing to tamper with it. Which brings us to, let's call it vascular diplomacy in the Southern Hemisphere. Erectile function? Yeah, turns out it's basically hydraulics. You need smooth, open blood vessels for the machinery to work on demand. Now, when oral bacteria trigger chronic inflammation, they pump out enzymes and toxins that tell blood vessels everywhere, stay tight, don't open up fully. Great for keeping a tourniquet on, not so great for date night. And just to make sure this isn't awkward enough, let's bring in our resident gum whisperer. She's got a stat that'll have you side-eyeing your floss like it's a loaded weapon.
So, men who have periodontal disease are 2.85 times more likely to suffer from erectile dysfunction.
2.8 times?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's 280%, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's almost 3 times the risk, because the same vascular chokehold that stresses your heart also throttles your confidence. Imagine planning a romantic evening only to find out your mouth sabotaged you before the appetizer. You could be brushing twice a day and still be setting the stage for a full-on mechanical failure if you've got chronic gum inflammation simmering away. The worst part, most guys ignore bleeding gums because it doesn't hurt. Newsflash, neither does high blood pressure, until it does. So yeah, keep ignoring your mouth, and you might find yourself blaming stress when the real culprit is floss's evil twin, neglect. And if you think this is the end of the list of body parts mouth bacteria can mess with, wait until you hear how they've been caught hanging out in cancer tissue, like they own the place. Some bacteria are just troublemakers. Fusobacterium nucleatum? That's the one that shows up in crime scenes wearing a smug grin. And by crime scenes, I mean tumors.
So this is, I would say, some of the newest emerging research that's coming out. So with breast cancer, I didn't know this before this research came out, but your breast has its own microbiome. So that tissue within the breast, different bacteria are able to grow. And what they found was that in women who had breast cancer, they had high levels of certain oral bacteria in their breast microbiome. So the oral bacteria is called Fusobacterium nucleatum. So when they compared a healthy woman, her breasts, to a woman who had breast cancer. The woman who had breast cancer had very high levels of the specific oral bacteria called Fusobacterium nucleatum in their breast.
Let's pause there. Your breast has its own microbiome. Yep, and somehow bacteria from your mouth are making the commute south and setting up shop in breast tissue. And it's not just a breast cancer thing. In over half of colorectal cancer patients, researchers found the same mouth bacteria camping in the colon like it owned the place. And when it's there, the cancer tends to grow faster and respond worse to treatment. So yeah, F. nucleatum isn't just an uninvited guest. It's the guy who spikes the punch and sells the furniture while you're still in the house. Now, here's the slightly less depressing twist. Green tea. Turns out something as basic as sipping it can hammer this bug. We're talking anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and, in lab settings, straight up lethal to F. nucleatum. Does that mean you can shotgun matcha lattes and call it a cure? No. But maybe swap that third coffee for a green tea and think of it as sending a hitman after a bacterial kingpin. Because while caffeine keeps you awake, this stuff might be quietly keeping your microbiome from declaring war on your organs. And speaking of things you can actually control, let's talk about how to kick these squatters out of your mouth before they file for permanent residency. All right, we've toured the bacterial crime syndicate in your mouth. We've seen them torch neurons, choke arteries, sabotage hydraulics, and crash cancer cells Airbnb. Time to talk eviction. First off, the basics aren't optional. Brush twice a day, floss like you mean it, and don't just rinse with whatever neon liquid your supermarket stocks. Most mouthwashes, they're like carpet bombing. You kill the bad guys, sure, but you also wipe out the good guys who keep the peace. So yeah, maybe stop nuking your microbiome in the name of fresh breath. Instead, aim for balance. Use xylitol gum or mints to starve the worst bacteria without trashing the good ones. Eat fiber-rich foods. Your oral and gut microbiomes are pen pals, and they like the same stuff. Consider green tea your legal performance-enhancing drug. Oh, and dentist visits. Not a once-a-decade, when-it-hurts thing. Gum disease is stealth mode. If you wait for pain, you've waited too long. Remember that thing I teased at the start? Yeah, this is it. And you're not gonna like it. That one thing you do every morning that makes it worse? It's using antiseptic mouthwash right after brushing. You're wiping out the good bacteria before they even clock in. Ditch that habit, and you might just stop your immune system from playing whack-a-mole with your own organs. And while your gums might be plotting with your heart and brain, there's another slow burn disaster happening right under your nose, literally in your jaw. Because the vitamin D deficiency nobody talks about, it's not just wrecking your immune system, it's dissolving your jawbone while you sleep. And yeah, we're going there next.